Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We were gone last week, but we are back with episodes 9 and 10, talking about the finale, and we also have a special interview for you. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I need to like my volume up more. I feel like when you jam out when it's low, like you feel so. Yeah, there we go. Now we're in the club.
That's when this whole place up.
All right, so they're getting their money tonight finally. We'll get to that episode real quick. We want to just do a nice little recap in under 10 minutes of episode 9. We got the DJ still spinning. I'm Abigail Fraher. You can follow me on all social media at Abigail Fraher. Olivia's out for the evening, so you can follow her at the real_O_G. And I have my lovely co-host Jesse here with me tonight.
Hey guys, Jesse DAngelo. You can follow me everywhere at Jesse J DAngelo. Since there are only 2, I'm going to do my best to keep up with the live chat. So if you have any questions, throw them in there, and we'll try and get them covered.
Jesse, in one sentence, what do you think of last week's episode?
Oh, I was ready for tonight. I told you I watched it already, and I already forgot what happened.
Well, Cody took a huge dump. That was the beginning of many shits that were given.
The beginning of many a shit.
Suddenly shits were given.
The first of many a Thrive Nugget released in the water source.
So pretty much they started out that episode with 103K. Basically, my favorite quote of the episode is Alex saying, "No money, no problems," which showed me, like, that just summed it up. That's his outlook. No money, no problems.
And wasn't that the former week's episode title?
I think so. So it was a little off for me. The quote was off by a week for me, but it's okay.
Well, like maybe in editing, they were like, "Oh, that'd be a great title. We'll make it last
or something."
week.
I don't know. No flares, because everyone refused to carry the flare case. Again, I think that is just everyone going at it, stubbornness.
Yeah, for sure. And so didn't they say that if they wanted to flare out, since they didn't take it, they had to build like a 5-foot fire or something, and the smoke had to reach like a certain height or something like that?
As a viewer, being completely non-biased, watching that interaction, I was very excited because I was like, yeah, no one's going to do it. Like, rebel. And then it's like, wow, you have nothing anymore, which helped out Cody and Makani as far as like group buy. Not that they would ever really be able to buy anything anyway with 2 and 2.
Right. Yeah. When they said that, now you can't do any group buys. It was like if Gina and Alex had any hope of getting through to Makoti, which I don't think they would have, but if they had any last hope of getting them to buy something for them, they just threw that chance out.
So that was shot, and then they also basically threw out their chance for anyone to flare out, because it's like at this point, if I'm to build a 5-foot whatever anything to quit, it's like you're putting so much work into quitting. I might as well just stay there and sleep or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think both people got hurt in that.
Or it could have helped them not, because Gina even said in this episode, I'm jumping, but she even said in this episode she would have flared out halfway, and then I think it was Cody or Alex said, Gina said, I think it was off camera, but that if we had the physical flare gun, then she would have done it. Right.
So it ended up helping and hurting each team for different, obviously, reasons.
Right.
Which is nice it was nice to see, like, it being equal. I think that's the only fair thing.
Yeah, for something.
Or whatever. But it was also really great to see their rivalries continue.
Right. Because that's all they had for storylines at this point.
Alex stole the Tinder bag. Cool. Shocker.
I've never even seen that Tinder bag until this episode. I was like, they got a Tinder bag?
He did mention he was going to try and steal the tent. Do you remember that when he said he was going to run into the tent and just sit in it?
No.
Okay, well, he was going to do that, and then basically he thinks that Cody hurt him. I don't think Cody hurt him. I think that Cody
he was gonna
is
try
very
and
meticulous.
That Makani was sitting in the tent. He was saying he was going to steal what? The pot? Or he was going to take something? He was going to steal
the tent, and then Cody was like, Makani, get in the tent. I don't know why you would ever, don't leave anything,
right,
without watching. So it's like both teams are thinking similar thoughts, just obviously on different sides.
Right.
During the whole thing. They took the temptation, which was the shower and the food and the spa.
The full-length mirror.
The full-length mirror.
And then it had me wondering, I thought this is going to sound so freaking vain, but I thought when they when part of the temptation worth $15,000 was a full-length mirror, I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, I just realized that they haven't seen themselves in 40 days.
That's so true.
Right?
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Unless they made friends with like a production person. They're like, please, like, let me just look at your phone or something.
Please take a selfie. And then we see that they took the temptation. They also won the contest, so they got double food.
And I feel like over the last couple or few episodes, production's been trying so hard to throw a bone to Gina and Alex just because they're so at odds with the other team and they just have no chance at coming back. Really, so I feel like they're trying to throw them these bones with these challenges, and Makoti just keeps taking every single one of them. And I'm like, oh no, guys.
110%. 110%. I think that also in that last episode, well, not even in that last episode, in the last two, I mean, really looking back on things, again, Gina I was really proud of.
We turned to each other at the same time tonight. Me and
Yeah.
Abby were both like, we're so proud of Gina.
So proud, because I did not, if you would have asked me who was going to make it to the end, I never would have picked her. Honestly, up until like the last episode.
And I'm sure she
kept thinking
would have
she was
said
going to
that.
flare out, and then the flares were gone, and I was like, well, I think she's probably going to stick around then because the flares are gone. But
Yeah.
okay, that's enough. You all know what happened last week. We did, though, however, do a video interview with Alex, so we're going to go ahead and play that for you now. That was filmed after the last episode, episode 9, so before the finale. So we're going to go ahead and play it, and then we're going to talk about that for a few minutes with you guys, and then we're going to delve into the finale, which is episode 10. So stay tuned. Here's Alex.
All right, first question. What I think triggered the season's animosity was probably Cody at the first camp telling half the people that he was never going to work with them, he was never going to try to buy them anything, and he was going to try to starve them out. You know, so to speak, when you're in a zero-sum game, something to one person's advantage is always to another person's disadvantage. So he telegraphed his strategy. He was easy to foresee his moves. He always knew what was coming, and he told everyone that at the first camp, and I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And then the tent buy at the second camp was an opportunity for us to get a shelter advantage. And when you look at what happened the first 5 days, when you're on a tropical island and it rains for 5 days straight, you know that you're going to need a shelter advantage. That's something that could get you a long way in the game. And whenever you buy a shelter advantage, it comes to somebody else's disadvantage. Now, we tried to do it in a way that would minimize conflict at the time. That definitely backfired, and it didn't work out for us that way. But you look at the transition of someone like Makani, who thought we were all there just to sing Kumbaya in camp, and went and cried in the river the first time we had a disagreement, to, 20 days later, she poops in someone's water. I guess not to stick to her convictions, not one to stick to her convictions too tightly. I guess that revved up her game and told her how it was going to go. If that started the animosity, for some people, I think it would probably only be Cody, because the rest of the people felt the animosity from him at Camp 1. Next question. Do you feel your personality and character were accurately portrayed on the show? When people ask if I feel my personality and character were accurately portrayed on the show, I say yes. I mean, my personality certainly was portrayed. I mean, that is what happened. The good thing about this show is there's not producer intervention or anything like that. It's all authentic reaction from the cast members. Now, when people ask me whether my character was accurately portrayed on the show, I think it's from someone who takes it a little too seriously. You're asked to make decisions that you wouldn't make in your real life, and you're put in situations you wouldn't be in your real life. So I've never taken it too seriously. I didn't take the game personally. It was just a game to me. I can tell from some of the social media of my other cast members that they took it very personally, and to each his own, I guess. But to me, it was just a game, and once it was over, I took it as that. Is there anything you weren't... Oh, wait. What was going through your head when you were ripping up? I remember when I was ripping up the $65,000, or what became $65,000, I was thinking in my head how unfortunate this was. But we were in a scenario, Gina and I, where our backs were sort of against the wall. And so the scenario that we presented to our opponents was essentially the following. We asked for a couple of items that would have essentially represented $20,000. Or for the sake of this analogy, let's say it's $2. So this question that we gave to them was, you give us $2, or we will take 6. Excuse me. The situation we presented to them was, you give us $2 or we will take 6. Okay, so it's 2 bad options for them. I get that. But most people would say, all right, I'll give you $2. I don't want to lose 6. But they were so stubborn, they were stuck in their ways as trying to starve us out, that they wouldn't give us 2, so instead they lost 6. I'm sitting there thinking, it's incredibly unfortunate. I didn't want to burn the money. I thought they would probably take us up on that deal, but when they didn't, it's sort of like, pulling a knife out in a fight. If you're going to go to that level, you've got to use it. And we had to do that to keep our leverage out throughout the rest of the game. If we hadn't gone through with our threat to burn the money, then whenever we would have bartered the rest of the game or gone to them with a certain scenario, they would have thought that we probably wouldn't follow through on our threat. So it was highly unfortunate. I hated doing it. It was a move to try to advance us farther in the game, try to get us some food. It didn't work out. And then you made the threat, you had to go through with it and be true to your word. I think it was essentially Cody and McConaughey's decision, and they chose to let us burn it. Is there anything you weren't aware of until watching it on TV? No, there was nothing that I wasn't aware of until watching it on TV. My largest takeaway from the show. My biggest takeaway from the show is definitely something that is much more beneficial than any sort of prize ever would have been or anything like that, and I knew that about halfway through. When I think about the show, the biggest thing that it teaches you is a deep appreciation for your blessings. As someone in my mid-20s, you think about it all the time. People tell you, oh, you won't take that for granted, or, you'll learn to appreciate that blessing. And I think until you get older, or until you're in a scenario where you're trying to survive for weeks at a time on an island, you don't really appreciate that on the level that people that are older than you are telling you that. And so the biggest thing that the show engendered for me was a rich appreciation of my blessings, the good things in my life. It teaches you that the biggest gift that you can give someone is your time. The time that you spend with your friends and family, no matter how small the interaction, is precious and something to be cherished. And so I hope moving forward in my life that I never lose sight of that. Because that sort of deep appreciation for your blessings puts life in perspective in a way that makes, the small things that might have used to get me upset or used to get most people upset, it makes them seem not so big, and it's something that you just move past and keep an appreciation for the good things in your life no matter what else is going on. And so the fact that it taught me that is something that I cherish. I'm incredibly appreciative to have gotten to go on the show, and I hope I never lose sight of that. What would you say were the best and worst moments on the island? The best moment for me on the island was probably on the Temptation at Camp 5. That was a beautiful camp with a waterfall at the end, and I got to go on my first Temptation, and it was with Alonzo, and we both got to see a video from a loved one at home. That was certainly a powerful moment, something that I really appreciated getting the opportunity to do, and I was really happy that that was my Temptation. And so that was a great moment for me, certainly a high point. I thought a lot about my family, my girlfriend while I was out there. They were a big motivating factor for me, and getting to see my girlfriend on the video and experience that with Alonzo was certainly a high moment for me. Playing in the waterfall, which they didn't show at that camp, was also a great moment. So I would say Camp 5 was probably a high point on the island. A low point was probably somewhere in the Camp 8 through 10 range. That was where hunger was certainly starting to set in. Gina and I certainly were battling for the food, and one of the frustrating things, but also one of the blessings, was having Gina was such an important part of my game. She kept you balanced. And having someone to talk to is so important. But on the other hand, it was hard to find food, but when I would find some, we had to share it, and we had very precious resources, and we had to ration really wisely. I was finding cassava. I found a mango tree that hadn't shed its fruit despite the 2 cyclones that had hit right before we got to the island. I found a pineapple. I was digging pretty much all day. It doesn't really show that survival aspect, and that would be the one thing that I would tell viewers is that they missed a lot of. The show's probably harder than they realize, but also there's a lot of survival aspects that weren't shown. I think that was one of my strengths, and so one of the low points was probably sometime in Camp 9 or 10. I recall having dreams that I was in a grocery store or I was shopping for food in some way, and then I'd wake up right before I would eat the food, and when you're starving, that's a really tough scenario. was my first post-island meal? Ooh. My first post-island meal, I landed in LAX and actually had a 10-hour layover before I flew back to Nashville. So I think I had Del Taco or some sort of Mexican fast food restaurant in Los Angeles. But once I got back to Nashville, I actually live just a couple of minutes from the original Krispy Kreme donuts shop. And so we, on the way from the airport, drove by there. And I don't really have much of a sweet tooth, but it's amazing the things that you'll crave when you're starving on an island. So we stopped at the Krispy Kreme, got a dozen original glaze hot off the grill, which was absolutely amazing. So that was the first thing I ate when I got back to Nashville. And it's amazing, too, because when you're starving or you start to get to the point of starvation, once you are sort of rescued, unstranded off the island, your body forgets to tell you when you're full. So I came back, was eating thousands of calories a day. I lost 22 pounds while I was on the island, but I gained that back incredibly quickly because I was just eating so much. It was like my brain forgot how to tell my body that I was full. And the last question, is there anything that I would change about the format of the show for a potential season 2? Not necessarily. I enjoyed, for the most part, the game that we played, and I give the showrunner Kevin Lee a lot of credit. He came up with a really interesting format, and I think it's hard in reality TV to come up with something new that people haven't seen, and I think he did a good job of that. I think the challenges could be, a little more unique, a little more involved, perhaps a little more Survivor-ish in that regard. But I'll leave the show changes up to the experts. If there's going to be a season 2, I'm sure there'll be a couple of tweaks. But I look forward to watching it. I think that it's an interesting new show. It's incredibly authentic. The reactions that you saw out there are 100% what our natural reactions were. And it didn't matter what team you rooted for. Both sides were making moves that made good television, and in the end, I guess that's what they, wanted out of the show. It's interesting always what they choose to show when 4 days of life are boiled down into 44 minutes of entertainment. But whatever they change into season 2, I'm sure it will make the show more authentic. It will engender good reaction, more good television, and so I'm looking forward to it. I hope that there's a season 2, and I'll definitely be watching. Thank you guys for letting me answer these questions, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks so much.
We just want to say thank you so much to Alex Apple for his interview and for answering those questions. We had a lot of people in the chat saying where is he getting these questions from. We sent these to him prior, and then he responded in video format for us because he could not be on the show live tonight. So thank you. And you heard it here first. Del Taco is the first meal of winners. Well, if that's the only thing that's near the airport when you get off.
It's not the only thing at the fucking airport, but sure. Anyway, so moving along, I don't think there's much to go over from the video other than I'm not sure, is he running for...
I have to say, I do like that Apple a Day license plate
high school
in the
principal,
background.
president? I'm confused. I didn't gain much from that interview other than I think it's all I guess it's hard for people to not be one-sided.
Well, I will say that he's at least sticking to most of his views and the things that we saw in the show.
Right.
So, I
think the bottom line is that, McConaughey's character changed because he was a dick.
Well, she was met with a situation where she felt she had to change. She was ready to be, maybe, as he put it, kumbaya-ish. But as soon as she realized, people are going to play the game this way, then I clearly have to do it too if I want to make it to the end.
And then as much as, the bottom line is that team doesn't like this team. This team doesn't like that team. This team fucked over this team. And then this team went back and did what they could to this team. So it's like, can you just own some of that stuff? He's still calling people bullies, and then it's like, I'm glad on tonight's episode they showed certain points where he zipped the tent up and just did some asshole-ish things, which I'm okay with. My thing isn't that I'm not okay with you being a dick. My thing is own it.
Well, right, because
fully own it. Be yeah, I am an asshole, or I was a dick and I did start this issue with the tent because I didn't like Cody's animosity, or something like that, rather than being I did nothing wrong. Whereas I think that's why, actually not I think, I know that's why I have more respect for the other team, not only because they blew them out of the water, but because every single calculated thing they did was owned up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like he's standing by what he did, but he's not standing by that it was shady. He's standing by that he didn't think it was that bad.
Right. Like if I was on the show and I made all these decisions that maybe coming out after I would look back on in hindsight and be like, oh God, if I wasn't in a situation where I was starving and this and that, I probably wouldn't have done that. But I would be able to say, yeah, I did that because I did what I had to do for the show. And maybe it was an asshole thing to do,
Right.
but...
And I think that it's a normal question to ask characters because regardless of if it's a reality show or not, you are a character. If that was your true self, I think that's a normal question.
Well, and because a lot of reality shows, we always hear like people blame it on the edit. Right. So I'm just curious to, we're curious to know how they feel because some people do watch themselves back on a reality show and they're like, oh, y'all didn't see this part because they cut it out so-and-so. Anyway, we got a lot to blow through.
Yeah, we do. Let's just skip on the rest of that. Anyway, finale, $124K a person. How would you flare if you had to build a flare? That's a question that went through my mind during this episode.
How would I flare?
Yeah. How would you build
building
a
fire? Well, however the hell they've been doing it. I don't
they
know.
don't have flares anymore.
Well, they have to. How else do they build the fire?
Would you like climb up a palm tree?
Oh wait,
that's what I'm thinking. Like, how would you build a flare to flare out at this point?
I wouldn't. If I was at this point, even having no water or anything, I would just lay there, and I probably would have 2 days left in me before the medic claimed me dead. So I would just lay there and just pray that the fucking end would come.
So we get to the point where Alex is emaciated and Gina is dehydrated, and they get this temptation.
Insane.
My mind couldn't comprehend it, to be completely honest with you. Like, what would you have done?
First of all, I think they should have made it like 200,000 because, and this is the way we broke it down when we were talking about it. So they got $150,000 for one of them to leave, no strings attached. And so basically that would come off the total sum.
Right.
They were already going to get around 125,000 rounding up or whatever. So that's only a $25,000 difference.
Right.
If they were presented with a normal temptation and they took the $15,000 one, they would have spent that anyway. So it's really only $10,000 more than the temptation cost they would have taken, which, assuming 3 people made it to the end, still would have broken down to $3,333 each that they're losing. Right. So it's not that crazy of an amount for it to be like a FU to the other team. So it really just boiled down to whether or not one of them was okay with it.
Right. And then him saying that Alex saying it would be a weapon if he took it. Like, it's not a weapon. You're not hurting anyone. You're taking, like, maybe, what did we say, like $7,000 out of each person's reward to make up that 25. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not a lot of money. So it's not a weapon. It would be vengeful. And I would have taken it. Like, I'm sorry. This, again, comes down to, but like you pointed out, I'm glad that both of them chose not to take it because both of them have been spouting this whole, it's not about the money thing the whole time.
Last week's episode was filled with that. It's not about the money. So
right.
If they made it about it this episode, it would have looked hypocritical.
Super hypocritical.
At least I was glad they stood by what they've been saying recently.
Right. However, I would have taken it. Hands down, 110%. I would have been like, listen, you know I love you, Jesse, but this is a competition, and I'm going to buy you a fat dinner when you get back home, too. Or I'll fly you out, or something like that, because it's like, also, too, it was Alex's temptation. It wasn't Gina's temptation, so Gina had no right to have the temptation. And they didn't make that clear, so I wonder if it was just Alex's choice to decide. Well, they said one of you can go, but, like, why the hell would Alex let Gina go home on his temptation? You know what I'm saying? Right. It just, again, it shows you the level of the difference of competition level in each person. Like, yeah, they're not there to compete necessarily for money. They're there to like have an experience, which great, that's cool. But some people are there for the money. Yeah. And that's where that whole divide, I think, was. Yeah, because if it was for the money, I was even thinking we could figure out some way for one of us to go home or be, you know, whoever was more
likely to last the final 2 days, and then maybe say, look, I'll take the 150,000 and I get to leave early, and then I'll give you
5K.
like or even the majority, because you're going to stay the last 2 days of that difference from the 124 to the 50. Like,
right.
I'll give you 15,000 and I'll keep 10, but I get to leave early. If it was really about a friendship and a loyalty thing, then I'd be okay with taking less of a share to get to leave early or something.
Right. It just didn't. That was weird to me. That was a whole weird concept, but whatever. Then they come back and they try to spin it around like they're doing it because they all four were there, and you pointed that out right before Cody came up to them and pointed it out to them, and I was like, this is just, again, it's typical, like, I like to call it like a Selena Gomez move, like where now I'm just gonna throw some fucking shade. It's like where you want to look innocent and pure and like Taylor Swift, like I do the best things for everyone, but you're actually a fucking demonic. Like, you're actually crazy, sociopathic, psychopathic bitch, but like you want to come across as this innocent person. Like, Selena, like, you stole the weekend. You know what I'm saying? But like, but your appearance and your overall dynamic is to appear like you're this good doer.
Right.
You guys aren't good doers. You didn't do good. You did it for yourself.
Yeah, you did
Stop
good
trying to pawn it off like you did good for everyone.
Yeah, you did good by each other with your loyalty and standing
You're
by that.
selfish.
But if you said something about, if part of their decision making was the other two, like, oh, we all made it to this point, then we would have heard them say that when they were discussing it, just the two of them, and we didn't.
Right. Because that would have fit in with his whole role that he's trying to portray, or that he really is, but he isn't really that.
Yeah.
So Cody then again took another dump in the water.
And they showed it.
And they showed it, and
Abby
I wanted to
could not take it. That plopping sound.
Cody, I don't know. I really, this is so gross, but like, I don't understand.
And I showed her right before, because
How-
Cody, he posted it on Instagram. It was like 4 different pictures. And he's like, I don't get nominated for a reality show crazy moment or something like that.
But what I want to know is like, how is your shit so solid? Like, you weren't eating. If that was like hard, like the plops. I'm sorry, that was so gross. So Emma Connie's like, I can't do it. Like, I'm like, you have a digestive system of a beast. Like,
Plus, he's staying very well hydrated, because he said in the last episode, he's like, my pee is clear.
but that wasn't like a super hydrated poop. That was like a rock. That was disgusting.
Oh my God,
Anyway, I'm done analyzing the turds.
Oh.
Moving on. They then have the last challenge, where they again blow it out of the water. I mean, I feel like everything's so repetitive. It's just like they win.
Again, they're like, oh, let's
win.
give these guys breakfast. They're basically trying to hand them something. This was like an easier challenge. They're like, you have to walk 5 effing feet. There's a ladder. You just gotta stick some wood in a couple rungs and get up there. Like, it's not that bad or arduous. And then it
didn't happen.
Kill
And at this point, Cody's trying to do everything he can to get them out. So he's like over there eating the toast, like with the bacon. I was like, the smell of cooked bacon, if I had not eaten in 10 days, would make me lose my mind. I would have lost my mind.
It would kill me.
Done.
And I was even saying when we were watching this episode, I said when I was watching the last one, I think where the show has taken everybody, I would have been with Team Makoti, just the way everything played out. But watching last episode when Makoti won that challenge and they got that box with the kebabs and stuff in it, and just seeing how it's, Gina and Alex were just skin and bones, and watching them watch them eat and having nothing, no water, anything. Like, my heart was aching for Gina and Alex. Like, if I was on the island, even though I would have been with, let's say, you or whoever, being like, oh, this is our position and we're not giving them anything because we want more money, and I would have understood that, but it would have just tugged at my conscience. Like, I felt so bad.
Well, and that's like, I think I totally agree with you in real life. Like, if it was real life and you and I were feasting and I saw someone who had less,
I think that's what it is
then
too.
I would totally give. And like, that's how I always am when I see, homeless people or whatever. Like, I'll give my lunch on my way to work. There's always this one exit where there's someone, and I make 2 lunches sometimes, because that's what you do for humanity. But this isn't humanity, and Cody brought us right back to that really quick when they asked for the pot after turning down the temptation. He was like, no, you burnt not burnt, but you went through $165,000. So, okay, this is $150,000. Like, No, you saved $25,000, but you went through $165,000.
Right, and
Like,
I totally not
and then
fell
it
for
brought
it,
it
but
snapped me back. It snapped me back. Like, I'm like, yeah, you're right. This is a fucking competition. Like, screw you guys. Like, what am I doing getting soft? Because it did tug at your heartstrings a little, seeing them hungry. Not that I like Alex. I love Gina, but even seeing Alex hungry and that emaciated, I was like, I would have let him lick my plate. That's what I told you.
she's that shit about, oh, I'm done with my breakfast plate.
I would have let him lick my plate because I saw you, Makani. I saw you licking that plate.
Would have done it too.
I would have let them do it, but that's about all. Then they get to do the last trip, which is to the helicopter.
Right before that, though, really quick, I wrote down,
yeah.
that's when we had the little reflective montage of Gina. And like we were saying earlier, I think we've seen the biggest transformation in her, and I think the money's a great bonus, but if I believe it coming from anybody, it's that Gina got so much out of this. Even if something happened and she didn't get the money, I think she walked away with a lot from this. And it was so nice to see.
Right. And what's actually, now that, right when you said that is when I realized this, both the female figures in this show have had, I think, a greater transformation than the male figures, because we see Makani started meek and ended very strong and
standing her ground,
and so she learned to kind of come into her own a little bit more as a demanding person. For certain things you need to be demanding. And then also Gina at the same time came into her own as a meek girl in the terms of being able to kind of stand on her own physically, I think, generally, and swimming and all of those things, and she really grew a lot as that. I think Alex is the same person that he came,
Cody.
and I think Cody came the same man he left.
And he declared that at the end too. He said, I played this game exactly the way I wanted to. I feel good about it. I made it to the end. I've been, I don't know the word I'm looking for.
I mean, he basically came
Consistent.
in as the top dog, and he left as the top dog. And he came in with that attitude, and I think what we learn most about this whole thing is mindset means a lot.
Everything.
A lot.
Yeah.
Then moving on to their last little trek.
Last little trek.
I know you were taking notes at that time. Did you see the difference in the weight distribution that they were carrying? If not, I'm about to shock you because you were taking notes when it popped up on the screen.
No, I did not.
So, last trip, Cody carried 300K, which was 80 pounds. Makani carried 54 pounds. Alex carried 35 pounds. Gina carried 11 pounds. So, again, breaking it down, as much as even people who are anti-Makody, they still carried majority of the weight on the way to the helicopter. Yeah, they didn't let them eat food or drink water, but that's a strategy. Now it's over. They're going to help you carry it. Like, they carried way more weight.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not even 80 pounds, 54 pounds. Next up is 35 pounds.
I mean, come on.
There's nothing else to say. That speaks for itself. I mean, that right there is fact.
Yeah.
And then we have they propel down the waterfall.
And it's just one of those things I wrote down, equipment / producers, because they want to project this image of, the drones and all that, which I get is just the image they want for the show. It's the idea behind it. But if you think that these 4 people just put all that stuff together on their own and they just let this happen, like, they would be such a liability if one of them fell down that cliff to their death. Like, there's no way you can say there's not a production team or people watching that
on the screen?
I didn't like the disclaimers and stuff at the end.
It wasn't real money that they burned.
Like,
it was the idea of the money, and they still took that money away, but it wasn't actual physical
actual currency. Yeah.
Currency.
Yeah. No, I didn't even think to look. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if there was one.
So they all propelled down the waterfall. Gina takes the longest. I was getting a little irritated with how long it was taking, just because my energy was like, let's go, let's go, let's go.
She sounded like she was giving childbirth.
That too. But then I also realized she is going down into a huge thing of water. She can't swim. Yes, she has a life jacket on, but it's still...
And she's afraid of heights.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Understandably.
Still proud of her. Still was a crazy sound.
Yeah, I mean, even if it took her 2 hours for her to conquer, like, 2 fears in one thing, that's big.
And then we see them make it to the helicopter. They all seem kind of okay with each other. Like, there was no aggression in the helicopter.
Because at that point, it's like you have to
It's
imagine they've
over.
accepted they're winning it too, and even if you've been at odds with each other the majority of the season, there still must be this feeling of like, oh my God, like we all did it,
Right. Right. What are your, because we are wrapping up. What are your final takes on this whole series?
I like the idea of it. I think that if they were to get a season 2, some kinks could just be worked out. Like maybe if there were consistently challenges, you could just tell that the challenges that they did have were put in when it was convenient for producers to try and get a storyline. Like, oh, this isn't that exciting, let's do this. Or, it's getting down to the wire. What are we just going to watch 4 people make it till the end? Like, let's start putting in challenges, So I think if they worked out a couple kinks, it could be better. And even the ending was just a little anticlimactic. I don't know. If there was a little more structure to the show, I don't know.
I think that I completely agree with you, and I don't honestly know what production would have done if they didn't have them shit in the water, if they didn't have that money burn. Those are two huge things that, like,
the biggest points of drama, I think.
And when you think about it, it's 4 days put into 45 minutes.
Right.
If that's the most exciting stuff, I'm not saying that it was, like, there was exciting stuff, and I'm sure there's other things we didn't see that would maybe give us a little more insight, but I think that there needs to be a step up. Like, it needs to become something greater. There needs to be this oomph that's missing for me.
Yeah, and that's why I think when I'm talking about it, my tone is sort of like, because I'm not exactly sure what I'm trying to say or what I want from it. But yeah, there's just something, there's some element missing. I don't know if it's they need to make it not harder physically, because undoubtedly that must have been so hard, 40 days and,
Right.
with food sporadically being given, and but something, more rules or something in place to make it more difficult on a social experiment level with each other.
Right.
If that makes sense, I don't know.
And then also I was thinking maybe, not that I don't think this is the idea going into it. Maybe the concept is kind of to just, like, appreciate what you have. I don't know. I just feel like the fights weren't that aggressive for me, and the sadness wasn't that aggressive for me. Like, everything felt kind of in this middle.
Yeah.
And maybe once or twice you'd have it go a little high. But there was no, like, I want a little more of an up and down roller coaster ride with a reality show. However, I think that the idea is phenomenal.
Yes. No, the idea is great.
Is there anything to say? Like, who do you think? You knew I was going to do it. 4 people won. Who really won? We have our music going.
The music's playing.
Yeah.
I don't know, in different ways. I think Gina won as far as a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she carried her weight, so to say, as far as gaining the money, but at the same time, who's to say she didn't? Because this game was left open for you to play however you wanted to play.
It's a very ambiguous answer. 100%.
But I
think
mean
on
that, do you know what I mean?
a
Like,
competition level, Cody and Makani definitely hands down won it.
Oh, physically, yeah.
I also think lastly,
And strategy.
I just want to leave everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining. We are getting cut off the air. Thank you so much for joining us during these 10 episodes. We've loved all of your comments, good and bad. All of our guests on here. We thank you so much. I just want to leave you with one final thought. You can, not that you can follow me on all social media, but you can at Abigail Fraher. And they spent more money than they made. Hashtag American youth.
That's America.
That's America.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a great ride, and maybe we'll see you for season 2.
Maybe we'll see you for
We
season
don't
2.
know.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Oh, you guys can find me everywhere at Jesse J. DAngelo.
Oh my God.
Forget that.
I'm like chucking my water down. Like,
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Drive Nuggets.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.